Hey there everyone. I thought I would make a new video on how I root my fig cuttings and make a more comprehensive video and show a few of the different techniques that I use these days and go over some of the subtleties that I have not talked about in the past that have helped me. I've definitely learned a lot over the last several years since I made some of the other videos, and I use a few different techniques, so I thought I would share them with you all today. Okay guys, we're going to be doing 3 different methods today. 1, I'm going to be rooting in these clear plastic cups. 2, in one of these 4x9 tree pots. And then 3, we're going to be doing what they call fig pops in these plastic bags. So here's everything you're going to need. If you're going to do fig pops, I get these bags. Can't remember, I think I got them on Uline. I think they're like, I don't know, 4x15, something like that. I'll post a link in the description to these bags. But yeah, you'll need those. You're gonna need a knife for scraping down the sides of your cuttings. Some rubber bands, these will be for the fig pops. This is the rooting hormone that I use. It's just butyric acid and some other benign ingredients. This works really well for me. You can use gels. I know some people make their own, but this has been a mainstay for me for many years now. A pair of scissors for cutting your bags when we do the fig pops, and obviously a tree pot and a clear plastic cup if you're going to use those methods. Okay, let's talk the cuttings themselves. Most of the time we take our cuttings during the dormant season, which is in the winter or the early spring. But here in the late autumn, this was a tree that I had stripped of its leaves a while back because it was having some issues with some location stuff and a little too much shade. So anyways, these are going to be good to go here. I like my cuttings when they're nice and lignified. You can see it's got that nice kind of gray bark on it. And these I have found, in most people's opinion, are far easier to root than summer cuttings or wood that isn't as lignified. You can see towards the tip of these cuttings up here, this isn't very lignified. It's still a little bit green towards the tip. That's going to be okay. I wouldn't want my whole cutting to look like that though. They have the tendency to rot when direct sown, or not really sown, but when direct potted. So yeah, nice and lignified cuttings is what we're going to be using, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, let's talk medium. So this is a seedling potting mix that I use. I know some people root in actual potting soil. Some people use peat moss or perlite or various other things. I like this seedling potting mix. It is inert. It does not have any fertilizer in it, any food. What I've found is if you root in actual soil or soil that has food in it, potting mix with food in it, that you can often get premature rot. So before your cutting is fully rooted out, your cutting starts rotting in there because of the food, and that's certainly something that I don't want. So this is a seedling potting mix, and I've wet it, and I like to wet it a few hours in advance so that it has a chance to kind of equalize and soak up all the moisture that it will. We want to get it to what we call field capacity. So field capacity means that it's soaked up 100% of the moisture that it can and no more. So we don't want this sopping wet and we don't want it too dry. So when I squeeze this, let's see if you can see in here, just a little bit of moisture kind of coming out right there, maybe a drop or two. So that's right about how I want my moisture, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so first up are these fig pops. I've went ahead and filled my bag with 4 or 5 handfuls. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of pack it down there a little bit. And what I like to do is I like to spin it up, make sure that I get any air out of any, kind of air bubbles or voids out of the bottom of the bag. And then I clip it up top here. Some people take that top of that bag and they'll fold it over the top of their cutting. I don't want to do that. I'm going to be sealing the ends of my cuttings, but I want them to breathe a little bit. I found that if I do fold the top of the bag over, they have the tendency to mold in there, and that's not what we want. All right, clear plastic cup, 16-ounce cup. I've got my soil in there, and I'm going to go ahead and, well, not soil, seedling potting mix, and I'm going to go ahead and tap it down, get rid of any voids, and I like to leave about that much room on the top. Although I have not cut any holes in the bottom, I do not want holes in the bottom while they are rooting. I will cut holes on the bottom when I am finally up potting them, taking them out of this container and putting them in their next size. But as of right now, I don't want any holes in the bottom, and it's because I don't want that medium to dry out while they're rooting. Even though this is going to be in a clear plastic bin in a humidity chamber, you can still lose quite a bit of moisture out of the bottom. So, all right, so got my cutting here. I want to make sure it's right side up. If you take a look at the nodes, you can see where there used to be a leaf right there, and I want that to look like it's smiling at me. That way that I know it's right side up. I rooted these upside down before, and kind of a pain in the butt. They'll still grow, but they grow kind of twisted and funny. So anyways, it's right side up. I like my cuttings to be at least 5 nodes. I want, if I can, I like to get 3 nodes above the soil line and 2 nodes below the soil line. The nodes will actually be where you'll typically get the roots from, and then also where you will get branching and foliar growth from. All right, so I want to make sure I get a nice clean cut here on the bottom to expose some fresh wood. Got a nice clean cut. And then I'm going to start at about the first node up from the cut, and I'm going to be removing some of the bark and getting down to the cambium layer. Basically, I'm just going to scrape down the sides here, and I could go around the entire cutting. I've found that if I just do 1 or 2 sides, starting at about that node, that's all I really need. So there it is, scraped down, and I've got a little pile here. Let me move my camera. I've got a little pile of the rooting hormone. I don't like to dip this right into the container. I feel like that's, possibly adding bacteria to that rooting hormone. So I go ahead and get a little bit of that rooting powder on there. I don't want too much. I don't want to cake it on. So after I get it in there, I tap it off. But I've got a nice little amount of it on there. And this one I'm going to go ahead and insert into a fig pop bag. I'm going to press it down in there, and I have left, if you can see, I have left 1, 2, and then a little short node right there. I've left 3 up there. With these fig pops, I take a rubber band and I go around the top of the bag. I give it 2 twists and then secure it on the bottom, just like so. So that adds a little bit of compaction. It's keeping that medium pressed tightly up against that cutting, and it's allowing this cutting to breathe up top here. Like I said, I am going to go ahead and seal the ends, but that's what a completed fig pop should look like. This is obviously very self-explanatory. I don't really need to show this, but this is how my cutting looks when I have them in a clear plastic cup, and the same thing in a 4x9 tree pot. But we will talk to differences here. So I first started rooting in these clear plastic cups, and really like this method, number one, because you can see the roots as they start to emerge. The only problem is that roots are light shy. So this is best done in a rooting chamber in an area that is a little bit darker, that doesn't have direct sunlight, because that's those roots come out and they start to surround the outside of the cup. If there's too much light, they get a little bit shy and they will want to cease growing, and they'll actually start to brown up pretty quickly. And the other disadvantage is that this is a fairly small container, and I can't let this, after this starts to leaf out and starts to set roots, I can't let this grow in that small 16-ounce container very long. That's where rooting in a tree pot comes in. So the disadvantage is that you can't see the roots emerging, but once you see foliar growth up top, once you start to see some leaves, you can go ahead and start to transition this to the light. For me, this is, what is it, beginning of October, and I'm gonna move them into my heated greenhouse in there. You could move these into an area with a grow light and a heat mat, or just on your counter, or if it's spring or summertime, you can just start to slowly transition them outside. So the nice advantage of rooting in a tree pot is that after they're rooted out, they can live in here for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 months. Using an inert medium, you would want to go ahead and start slowly fertilizing them, because they're not going to have enough food to last forever in that soil. There's no food in it. But yeah, and then the advantage to fig pops. I would say the biggest advantage for me is that I can fit way more of these in one of my rooting chambers than I can these cups or these tree pots. Probably by double or triple. So that's why I use this method. I also use this method a lot because it keeps just about 100% of the moisture in there. When I put them in the rooting chamber, what I look for is I want to see some nice condensation starting to build up on the inside of the bag, evenly distributed around the inside of the bag, and that way I know there's enough moisture. If there's not, I can always go in through the top here and I can drizzle in a little bit more water. You don't, like I say, you don't want them soaking wet, but I do want to make sure there's enough moisture in there that the cutting isn't drying out. All right, so sealing the ends of our cuttings. There's a few ways that people do this. I found this stuff online years ago, and one of these has lasted me years and years and years, so there's no reason for me to use anything else. I know some people use wood glue, some people use wax, some people even use grafting tape to seal the end of their cutting, only if they're cut. So if it's a terminal tip like this, if it has an apical bud, you don't need to seal it unless there's some cut branches on the sides, some open areas. But when you have a cutting like this, where we have a nice fresh cut, I don't want to leave that. Number one, it will lose moisture through there, and number two, I find that they have a tendency to mold right at that spot. So I use this wound sealer here, and all I do is I take a little dab, I get it on my finger, and I just seal up this little end. Just about like so. And I don't want to put it straight into the rooting chamber. I want to give it a little chance to dry. But nice and sealed up like that. Not going to lose moisture and not going to dry out. And I'm far more successful when I do that than when I don't. So I do it. So one of the last few things I wanted to leave you guys with was something I didn't discuss in the last rooting video I made a few years back. And I discussed it a little bit earlier, but I don't have holes in the bottom here because I don't want this losing moisture as it's rooting. But when I go to up pot this, if I were to flip this upside down and try to tap this out, there's a lot of suction created right there between the moisture that's on the exterior of that medium and the lack of airflow. So before I go ahead and up pot this, I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to slice off corner and a corner and a corner. I'm going to do it 2 or 3 times to just release that suction. And at that point, it's a lot easier to go ahead and flip this upside down, give it a gentle squeeze, and go ahead and remove this and then gently up pot it into your next container. But anyways, that's something I didn't talk about before, but I find is really important, because if I go ahead and try to up pot this and tip it over and break off all the roots because there's too much suction in there, or I'm being a little too rough with it, the chances of it surviving are far less than if I can get it out of here smoothly and into its next pot. So anyways, just one of the little finer details that I think is pretty important. Okay, so here are a couple of my rooting chambers. These are just clear Rubbermaid bins, and you can see there's a lot of condensation going on in there. Let's go ahead and pop the top and take a look and see what's going on. So as you can see down there, I've got a whole ton of fig pops, and I have some here in clear plastic cups, and there are some that are already leafing out. Let's go ahead and take a look at one of these ones that's leafing out, and there are some roots already starting to form, so that's a really good sign. When I start to see roots and I've got a little bit of foliage up top, that means the timing is timed up pretty correctly. If I have too much foliage and not enough roots, that can be a little bit of an issue. because once there's a little bit of foliage, you got to start introducing them to the light fairly soon, or else you'll get really long, leggy, pale growth that's really weak. So yeah, here in the next few days, as this really fully roots out, I will go ahead and bring this outside into the heated greenhouse and get it up potted into a 1-gallon pot. And yeah, but there's a successful fig pop. And we'll take a look at one of these clear plastic cups. Let's see if this guy's doing anything. Oh yeah, there we go. There's some roots forming right there as well. And I actually prefer this, but this has not started to leaf out yet. So this will have a really good chance to kind of fully colonize the interior of this cup with roots, and then hopefully it will leaf out. Oh, I guess there's a little bud site right there. But yeah, you can see that nice little bit of condensation built up in there. And if we take a look underneath my bin are my heat mats. This is sitting directly on a heat mat, and I think, if I remember correctly, it's somewhere around 80 degrees that these heat mats are permanently set with their temperature. And fig cuttings really seem to like it. So yeah, everything in there is labeled, and I've got a whole nother bin of them down here, and I'm about to add some more as well. But yeah, you can see this room is fairly dark. It's just a little bit of indirect sunlight in here because, like I said, roots are shy. But yeah, I like them in these humidity chambers. I find humidity helps them a lot, helps them not dry out, and also helps them set roots. If there's too much humidity and you start getting a mold issue if you've not cleaned your cuttings well, I have a little bottle here that I add about a teaspoon of hydrogen peroxide to some sterilized water, and I will spray them down with this, and this will kill any mold on the spot. So this is just in case, because every once in a while I miss cleaning a cutting thoroughly. But hopefully I've covered everything today, guys, and hopefully this is a better video than I've made in the past. And hopefully this helps you guys get some cuttings rooted and growing some nice, successful, big, healthy fig trees. So, all right, everybody, take care, and have a great day. Peace.